Some of the components we'd like to create live previews for have Vuex as a dependency. To preview these components, we'll need to add the store to the wrapper component and also create Vuex ORM model instances for them to bind to. Let's begin by importing Vuex into the wrapper by going to the top of the file and putting import Vuex from Vuex. And we'll also import our existing store config by going import store config from @store. With that done, we can now install the Vuex plugin by going view use Vuex. Let's now create an instance of the store and add it to the wrapper component. We should do this within the factory function so that the instance is fresh for each previewed component. So let's come down here and put const store equals new vuex.store and pass in the store config. We can then add the store to the wrapper component definition using the object property value shorthand and putting store there. One such component that has Vuex as a dependency is the login form component that you can see on the screen. Let's now document it. We'll begin by adding a doc block at the top and giving it a general description, login form, and we'll add the version 1.0.0. Let's also add a usage example by adding the docs tag to the bottom. And we'll start as usual with the heading usage example. And we'll create a JS code block down here. And we're going to then declare the component inside that, which is login form. And we'll make this self-closing tag. Looking at the login form preview in the docs, it appears to have rendered correctly. However, if we play with the inputs, for example, let's add a valid email address to the email field like test@test.com, and you'll see that we get a validation error, email is required, which kind of implies that the email is missing when it's not. Now the reason for this is that even though we have Vuex store installed, we don't have any Vuex ORM model instances created to prime the form, and so the inputs can't read the data that we're entering. So let's now create an item model instance. We'll distribute the logic for this into a separate module file so that we don't overburden the wrapper file too much. So let's open the terminal and go touch, docs, style guide, and we'll create a module file called create models.js. Let's now open this module file and we'll export a function. Inside this function, we're going to create the model instances that our components will need. You recall from the last module that we need an instance of the user model for the form inputs to bind to. So let's go ahead and import the Vuex ORM user model by going to the top of the file and putting import user from store models user. And next we'll need the temporary user ID constant that the form uses to reference the model. So also put import temp user ID, and this will be from constants like that. Okay, with that done, we can now create the model inside the function by coming down here and going user create, pass an object into that, give it the property data, assign an object to that, give it the property ID, and we'll put temp user ID. Back in the wrapper component, let's now import the function that we just created by going import create models from create models. To call this function, we'll need to add a mounted hook to the wrapper component, and we'll call that function inside there. With that done, the form input to the login form component preview should now work. Let's again enter a valid email address, test@test.com, and we can see the validation is now passing.